Sarah L. Sheikh is outside the Harris County Courthouse with their story.
He was the life of the party.
Keylan Foreman's family says at just 21 years old, he had a presence that filled every room.
Very protective, very protective. He did so much, just so much for everybody.
But that presence is now missed.
It's hurt, like, it's a different kind of.
December 27th, 2025. A gas station parking lot in Northeast Houston. The fluorescent lights hum overhead as a white Chevrolet Equinox sits motionless, driver's door wide open. On the pavement, 21-year-old Keylan Foreman lies face down in a spreading pool of his own blood. His crutches are scattered several feet away. His chest rises and falls in shallow, labored breaths. Standing above him is his girlfriend, Jayla Brown. When police cruisers pull into the lot, she meets them with a story. "I don't know what happened," she tells the officers. "I just found him like that." But 50 feet away, mounted on the wall of a nearby business, a security camera has captured every single second. What that footage revealed would transform a frantic 911 call into a homicide investigation. The question is, how did we get here? Welcome to True Crime Unveiled 247. To my loyal subscribers, I pray your families remain safe and protected wherever they are. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Today, we uncover the tragic story of Keylan Foreman, a case where surveillance cameras became the silent witness to a deadly attack. This is a case built on contradictions. A 21-year-old man already injured and moving on crutches, completely vulnerable, in ways most people his age never are. 3 different versions of events, all from the same person, all within 24 hours. A screwdriver, driven with enough force to penetrate through the nasal cavity and fracture bone deep inside the skull. 23 days where doctors, family, and friends watched Keylan fight his way back from the edge of death. 23 days where recovery seemed possible. Then in a single night, it all came crashing down. And through it all, security footage that exposed every lie. So the question becomes, was this a woman defending herself in a moment of panic? Or was this something far more calculated, caught entirely on camera? By the end of this video, you'll see exactly how investigators built their case. You'll understand why Keylan's family believed he would survive. And you'll learn about the one moment that changed everything. But first, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in an on-again, off-again relationship? Drop a comment if you can relate to how complicated those situations get. Keylan Foreman was 21 years old, and if you asked anyone who knew him, they'd tell you the same thing. He was the life of the party. The kind of person who walked into a room and immediately changed the energy. People gravitated toward him. But more than that, Keylan was protective. He looked out for the people around him. His family remembers him as someone who did so much for everybody, always showing up, always making sure others were okay.
He is still processing this loss. They say he was actually doing well during his recovery until he suddenly passed away.
Everyone he was around, he made happier. He was the life of the party.
Keylan Foreman's family says at just 21 years old, he had a presence that filled every room.
Very protective, very protective. He did so much, just so much for everybody.
But that presence is now missed.
It's hurt, like, it's a different kind of hurt.
According to court documents, he was attacked near Laura Copy Road and Lockwood Drive on December 27th. Court records say the suspect, 23-year-old Jayla Brown, told detectives she was in an on-and-off relationship with Foreman, and the two were arguing outside her vehicle when she alleges he hit her. But after looking through surveillance video from a nearby business, detectives say there was no evidence backing Brown's claims, but that there was video showing Brown hitting Foreman, knocking him to the ground, and attacking him while she had a long, thin object in her right hand.
By late December 2025, though, Keylan was dealing with his own struggles. He'd been injured and was moving around on crutches. Simple things most 21-year-olds take for granted, getting in and out of a car, walking across a parking lot, required help. He couldn't do it alone. That vulnerability put him at a disadvantage he'd never experienced before. And he was caught up in a relationship that was anything but simple. Jayla Brown, 22 years old. On again, off again. The kind of relationship where you're never quite sure where you stand. That vulnerability, physical, emotional, would cost him everything. Jayla Brown was 22, She and Keylan had been together, broken up, gotten back together, and broken up again. It was a cycle, turbulent, unstable. The kind of relationship that leaves both people exhausted, but neither one fully walks away. Court records describe it as an on and off relationship. What that actually looked like day to day, we don't know. The details are sparse, but the tension was there. It was always there. Here's something worth noting. When police later interviewed Jayla, she told them she'd had a screwdriver in her hand during the argument with Keylan. A screwdriver. Think about that for a second. Why would someone have a screwdriver readily available during a heated argument in a parking lot? Was it already in the car? Was it something she grabbed deliberately? That question hangs over this entire case. On December 27, 2025, what started as another argument between Keylan Foreman and Jayla Brown would end with one of them unconscious on the pavement, fighting for their life. Remember that screwdriver. It becomes crucial. December 27, 2025. Keylan Foreman and Jayla Brown are inside her white Chevrolet Equinox, parked in a lot near the intersection of Lockwood Drive and Laura Copper Road in Northeast Houston. Nobody knows what started the argument. Court records don't say. Police reports don't specify. But whatever it was, it escalated quickly. Both of them are heated, voices raised, emotions running high. Now picture the scene. Keylan is on crutches. He can't simply step out of the vehicle and walk away. He needs assistance. He needs support just to get his body out of the SUV and stand upright. So here's a man who can barely move on his own, trying to exit a vehicle while arguing with his girlfriend. The physical imbalance is already there. The power dynamic is already skewed. And in that parking lot with no one else around, the tension is building toward something irreversible. The argument doesn't stay inside the car. It spills outside into the parking lot. Keylan is on his crutches, already at a disadvantage, already struggling just to stay upright. And Jayla has a screwdriver in her hand. What happened next was captured entirely on surveillance video from a nearby business. Every movement, every strike, every second of what occurred in that parking lot was recorded. But Jayla's story about what happened, that would change 3 times. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. What do you think causes relationships to turn violent? Is it ever truly out of nowhere, or are there always warning signs we miss? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. When Houston police officers arrive at the gas station, they find Keylan Foreman unconscious on the pavement, bleeding heavily from his face. His girlfriend, Jayla Brown, is standing nearby. She tells them a story. According to her initial statement, she doesn't really know what happened. She noticed people arguing, turned around, and saw Keylan on the ground, injured. She says she tried to do the right thing. Tried to drive him to the hospital herself, but her car ran out of gas. That's why she pulled into this gas station. That's why she asked someone to call 911. Officers document the scene, the blood, the crutches, Keylan's unresponsive body. Paramedics rush him to Lyndon B. Johnson Hospital. And for the moment, Jayla's account stands as the only explanation for what happened. But when a Houston Police Department sergeant sits down with Jayla for a follow-up interview, the story shifts. This time, she admits that she and Keylan had been arguing in the parking lot. She acknowledges they were both outside the vehicle when things turned physical. According to her new version of events, Keylan struck her in the face first. She says that's when she reacted. She had a screwdriver in her hand. She doesn't explain why. And she hit him with it. Then she says something that investigators would scrutinize for weeks to come. I blacked out. When detectives press her on the differences between her first story and this new account, she responds, "No, I hit him after he jacked me up." Now a self-defense claim is emerging. She's saying he put his hands on her first, and she was just protecting herself. Detectives knew something didn't add up. That's when they pulled the surveillance footage. The video from a nearby business told a completely different story. Detectives watched the footage frame by frame, and what they saw contradicted everything Jayla Brown had told them. There was no evidence of Keylan hitting Jayla first. None. Instead, the video shows Jayla lunging forward toward Keylan, not stepping back, not defending herself. Lunging forward, she strikes him. And remember, this is a man on crutches, a man who already can't move the way he used to. A man who can't maintain his balance. He stumbles backward and crashes hard onto the concrete. But Jayla doesn't stop. The video shows her continuing to make physical contact with Keylan while he's down on the ground. Then she walks away, back toward her vehicle. And as she does, detectives notice something critical. She's holding a long, thin object in her right hand. There's something else. Jayla appears completely uninjured in the footage. No visible marks on her face. No signs that she'd just been struck. No evidence supporting her claim that Keylan had attacked her first. The self-defense story crumbles. So here's my question for you. Do you think "I blacked out" is ever a legitimate defense? Or is it just a way to avoid responsibility? Comment below. When paramedics first reach Keylan Foreman at the gas station, he's bleeding heavily from facial wounds and completely unconscious. His brain is already swelling. At Lyndon B. Johnson Hospital, doctors examine the full extent of the damage. What they find is devastating. A displaced fracture to the sphenoid bone, one of the bones deep inside the skull, not something you can see from the outside. Bleeding in the frontal region of his brain. Facial trauma throughout. This isn't a surface injury. This isn't something that heals with stitches and time. This is catastrophic. The injury pattern tells a clear story. Something penetrated through Keylan's nasal cavity with enough force to fracture bone deep within his skull. Keylan is intubated. He can't breathe on his own. He's transferred to Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Woodlands, where specialists work to stabilize him, and he can't speak. He can't tell anyone what happened. He can't give his side of the story. Detectives now have 3 critical pieces of evidence. First, Jayla Brown's 3 conflicting statements. "I don't know what happened. Then, he hit me first. Then, I blacked out." Second, surveillance footage that directly contradicts her self-defense claim. Video showing her as the aggressor, lunging toward Keylan, striking him while he's on crutches, continuing to make contact while he's down. Third, a screwdriver wound that went through Keylan's face and into his brain. But there's a legal reality prosecutors have to face. Keylan Foreman is still alive. If he survives, this is an assault case. If he dies, it becomes murder. So they wait. For 3 weeks, Keylan fights. Against every medical expectation, against the severity of his injuries, he begins to show signs of improvement. And then comes the moment his family had been praying for. Keylan starts communicating with them. His sister later described it as a breath of fresh air because he was coming back. Think about what that means. A screwdriver had been driven through this man's face into his brain. He had a tube in his head to relieve the pressure. His left side was paralyzed. But he was there. He was present. He was fighting his way back. Keylan is transferred to a rehabilitation facility. The medical team develops a plan to help him regain strength, relearn how to use his body, and eventually go home. His family starts imagining that day, the day they walk him through the front door, the day they have him back for good. They really thought he was going to make it. And then, one night, everything changed. At the rehabilitation facility, Keylan tells his family something that, at first, seems minor. "This stuff is making my head hurt." Just a simple complaint. The kind of thing you might dismiss when someone's recovering from a traumatic brain injury. Headaches are expected, right? But this isn't just a headache. Keylan starts seizing. Medical staff rush into the room. His family watches, helpless, as the progress they'd witnessed over 3 weeks, the communication, the hope, the signs of recovery, unravels in front of them. "We thought everything was coming along," his family would later say. "It seemed like everything was going to be good, and it wasn't. It took a turn for the worse." On January 19th, 2026, 23 days after that argument in the parking lot, Keylan Foreman is pronounced dead. The Montgomery County Medical Examiner's Office conducts the autopsy. Their conclusion is clear. The cause of death is homicide. The examiner finds a distinct injury path through Keylan's nasal cavity. The screwdriver had penetrated straight through, fracturing the sphenoid bone deep inside his skull. That fracture, that penetration into his brain, that's what killed him. Not immediately, but the damage was too severe. The brain couldn't recover. On January 29th, 2026, 10 days after Keylan's death, a murder charge is formally filed against Jayla Brown in Harris County's 337th District Court. Her bond is set at $150,000. She remains in the Harris County Jail, awaiting trial. Keylan's family describes the loss as a different kind of hurt. They came so close to bringing him home. They watched him communicate. They watched him fight his way back from injuries that should have killed him. They watched him become himself again, and then they had to watch him slip away. We just didn't get to bring him home, they said. Keylan Foreman was 21 years old. He was protective. He looked out for everyone around him. He was the life of the party. And the man who spent his life protecting others couldn't protect himself. His family now calls him their guardian angel. As of now, there is no trial date. The case is still pending in Harris County Court. But the evidence is already stacked. Surveillance video showing the attack. 3 conflicting statements from the defendant. An autopsy report confirming that a screwdriver caused the fatal injury. Jayla Brown claims it was self-defense. The cameras tell a different story. A jury will decide. Keylan Foreman was on crutches, already vulnerable, already struggling just to move. And in a parking lot in northeast Houston, a screwdriver was driven through his face with enough force to fracture his skull. For 3 weeks, his family had hope. For 3 weeks, they watched him fight. And then in one night, that hope was gone. Keylan Foreman was 21 years old. He was the life of the party. And in one moment of rage, his life was taken. So I want to hear from you. What do you think the verdict should be? Self-defense or murder? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever witnessed a relationship turn violent? Share your story. Your experience might help someone else recognize the warning signs before it's too late. If this case affected you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. We cover cases like this to honor the victims and seek the truth. Justice for Keylan. Rest in peace, guardian angel.